And good day to all our listeners out there. This is episode number 38 of the Vice Mind Fireside Chats, and I'm really happy to welcome Alec Wells, Erika Nadu, and Julien Reiss today to the chat. And it is very close to the spring equinox. And the equinoxes are always about balance because the day and the night are the same length. And we thought maybe it would be a good idea to actually talk about balance, especially probably because I don't know about everybody out there, but do you have the feeling that everything at the moment is going a little bit out of balance and everybody is going into extreme and thinking in extreme and there's no coming together and no understanding and nothing in the middle? It's either or. It's really black and white, and if you don't think like me, then you're against me, and there's no talking or anything, and balance in between rather than mat throwing. And I just want to throw that out literally.
I'm a big fan of balance, partly because I lack it physically, and coordination also is a little bit lacking. But if I extrapolate that to a bigger picture and think about where perhaps I'm not in alignment, not in balance in the bigger picture of my life, my world, and think about how that lack of coordination between family, social, business affects the dynamic, it's very easy to be off kilter. I don't have that sort of personal, is it a gyroscope that balances? Julian will know. That personal spinning top that just hovers there. So like thinking at the end of that film Inception where he spins it and he's waiting for it to go wonky because that will tell him something. And I think if our lives go a bit wonky, or if the broader picture, the extrinsic world is going wonky around us, it's a great opportunity to ask some questions about what needs to be in balance, or even perhaps what we want to distance ourselves from, especially if it's extrinsic.
Is it really about balance in that case, or is it about getting out of discomfort? And also, is it really healthy to be balanced, or is it always about not losing, of not falling down? That's the question I'm asking to I don't have the specific answer. I'm asking those questions right now because I've been unbalanced and labeling myself as someone who's unbalanced for more than a decade now, and I'm handling it not so bad. So I'm okay. I'm okay with that, and I'm okay that when I'm focusing on business or on family or whatever topic, it's gonna be unbalanced, in all other area. I'm gonna give more here, so it's mean less there. So it's gonna be unbalanced. And I feel like life is always unbalanced. We just have to be careful to don't have it too much unbalanced in a way that we fall. You can chill out and not work hard for a few years. So that's okay. But you're gonna be financially unbalanced at the end. So you cannot maintain that for too much time. Otherwise, you're gonna sleep under a bridge. For many people, that's okay to sleep under a bridge. I'm not judging. Or sometimes you have to. It's just that the way it is. And I think I'm not sure about finding the balance, and I've been looking for balance for years. And I don't know, I feel like I will feel balanced when I'm dead. So I'm wondering really if life is really about being balanced.
There's two issues really here, right? There's balance in, can we really have life balance? And I'm actually always saying no, we can't, because we cannot do everything as well. We cannot do everything the same time in the same priorities. So to balance our life completely out, like having this state of equilibrium, is actually not possible, because sometimes this is more important than the other. So when it comes to life balance, we can get maybe close enough, but I don't think we ever can completely balance everything in our lives completely out. I don't think that's possible. But the question is, can we balance ourselves? In other words, our thoughts and our way we think about things and our attitudes. Are we able to balance that out, or are we thinking in extremes?
You bring a really interesting thing to mind, Gabby, which is people talk, you've probably heard about polyvagal theory. You certainly will all be familiar with fight, flight, freeze, flop. And we tend to think about those things all the time as the way we are reacting. But they are very specifically equated to a dysregulated nervous system. So if we are in a regulated place, which we can do through all sorts of mindfulness and activities and the like, they actually aren't prevalent. We would be in the kind of ventral vagal, the playful kind of state, and we'd be quite happy. That would be cool. That would be Julian's kick back in a field with a bunch of hippies kind of place for a few years. So when we feel that we're out of balance in our nervous system, that is very specifically keyed to dysregulated nerves. And probably some of our listeners are thinking, what the hell has this got to do with the equinox? But if we're not able to come out of that kind of threat state for a reasonable amount of time, then the important things that happen when we are in the regulated state, like eating and maintaining our immune system and all of those types of things, won't happen. And in much the same way, if something happened to the way the earth spins and we didn't move out of the winter period into spring, we wouldn't get the blooming plants and all of those things that are so important to this season of the year.
So I'm sitting there thinking before Gabby spoke, and I'm like, the only thing that's ever really out of balance, and the only thing that's ever unbalanced, is our view of what we think is balance. So I don't know. That's when it just dawned on me, like, well, nothing's, like Julien said, it's life. You cannot balance life because shit happens that throws you out of whack. And maybe you're going along, but then something happens and you have to put all your energy somewhere else because you have to handle it, right? So we're always in a state of this. It's always balancing. There is never balance. So the only thing that's unbalanced is how we each personally view whether we're in balance or not, and what happens after that, what dialogue we're telling ourselves. All we can really do, like Alec just said, is to pay attention to your own energy and where you're feeling depleted, to maybe raise some awareness to, I might be a little leaning more this way. I might have to go a little this way so I can get back to this, but I'm never going to just be here. Because if we're here, to me, that means we're not doing anything. We're not moving. We're not growing. We're not shaking it up. We're not doing anything. We're just here. I don't want to be here. I want to be here, kind of weighing it all out one way or the other. So I don't know. I'm listening to all of you, and I'm like, there's no balance. We're out of balance, the way we view balance. Meanwhile, the scales of justice, balance is my astrological sign. So I am very trying to be balanced here. I'm trying to balance it all, trying to do that. That's the only thing that we can do, is pay attention to what we're being depleted by and what we're not allowing to energize us.
And it's beautiful when you said it, Erika, because it falls so nicely in with what Alex said. What has it to do with the equinox? If you think, even in nature, the complete balance is only in spring equinox and autumn equinox for 3 days each time, twice a year. That's 6 days a year, where even nature is in complete balance, and then goes up and it goes down and things happen, right?
I think I'm going to aspire to getting 6 days in my year where I'm completely balanced like nature does it. I'm just shooting for 6 days. That's all I want. 6 days out of 365.
When we talk about setting achievable goals, imagine people who come to us, because let's face it, we are in the business of talking to people who perhaps have, let's call it, a complicated relationship with balance. If you were to say to anybody that comes to see you 6 days a year, that's all I'm asking from you, it doesn't seem like a big ask all of a sudden.
No, it actually just gave me a little boost of energy. I felt a whole lot of pressure falling off my shoulders. Wow, I only need to do this 6 days. Let me look at my calendar and block out 6 days where I can just be balanced. I don't know. There's something which gives me the energy of spring equinox is a rebirth. It's sort of just like things are coming back to life. It's the smells, the flowers, the birds, the sun, all of that kind of energizing stuff. We're coming out of the hibernation of the winter. We're starting to see the fruits of our labor. Hopefully, we've been working behind the scenes, doing stuff. That's what spring equinox says to me. So it's like, I've been working hard doing this. Let me just sit here and see where it falls so that I know how to adjust again.
You raise another excellent point there, Erika, which is that all of the really hard work happens in the dark. We've gone through this period. We had St. Bridget's Day or Bridget's Day, depending on whether you're religious or pagan, a good few 6-ish weeks ago. And that was where winter gave up its grip on the land and things started to grow and alter in the dark. A lot of the stuff that happens, the really complex stuff, happens in the dark. George, that's my son, listeners. George pointed out to me the other day that it can take up to an entire year for a toenail to grow back if you lose it completely. And yet, in 9 months in a womb, the wonder that is femininity grows 10 in 9 months. I think that's a wonderful, as George said, that's a baby and a quarter in a year. Nobody wants a quarter of a baby, but the growth happens in the dark.
Tell me what sounds balanced about that. A year for one toenail, yet women can form a whole human in 9 months. Really? There's no balance there. What is that? We're not, that's like, we're a little lopsided, but yet you have the miracle of life because we're unbalanced. We're not, and that's what you get. So there are good things to come from feeling a little out of balance, like you, depending on where. I think, again, discernment is the theme for me today. Depends on where you're choosing to put your energy to get that unbalanced thing, right? If it's something that's good for your growth or your family or something, great. If it's something keeping you stuck in victim mentality, not so great.
That actually brings me, I never said it out loud, but I'm going to say it today. So dear listeners, I'm saying it today. Something which bugged me about the personal growth industry and coaching is this life balance worksheets they give you, where you have everything in a pie chart and then you make little dots where you're not at a 10 and then you get this pattern. And from the first day I saw that, I said, this is horrendous. This is not helping people. This is people putting people under more pressure. I have to be a 10 everywhere and I have to balance this out. If you think about it, I will say it loud. This concept is a big BS. And that's what people do in coaching and tell people where they need to get. They're just doing more damage than being helpful. I said it out loud. I will be shot by lots of coaches.
I just have to say, a Freudian slip or whatever, because you said work shits. So that just summed it up right there. Oh, yeah, she said it all right.
Something that's come up twice in this brief conversation from Gabby and you, Erika, is the sense of relief. Gabby, you didn't say it in so many words, but the BS of trying to get everything in your life to a 10 of what exactly? What is even that measure? I'm perfectly happy to be average. If my little circle only reaches a 5, but all of the areas reach a 5, that must mean I'm better than somebody who's got a 10 in one and a 0 in another. There's a whole heap of comparison, which is not helpful. There's a whole heap of you've got to achieve, not helpful. Erika, 6 days of the year to be balanced. Yes, please. Sign me up. I'll take some of that, sir.
I feel like a new hat coming. 6 days. I'm just going to get a hat that says 6 days.
Merchandising.
It's really true, though, because these life wheel things, whatever. It's like, what's a 10? Your 10 is different than my 10. So if I say a 10, I don't know what that means to you. I know what it means to me, but just because as a helper, if somebody comes to me and they have a 7, I'm then now putting my interpretation of what a 7 is on their balance in the area of career or whatever it is, one of those wheels things, right? But what does that mean? 7, like you said, 7 what?
And there's also an issue with labels, because we know that, especially with young people, if you tell them, oh, you're a 2 out of 10 on this area, they're going to believe it. If you're not good at math, oh, and then now I'm going to say I'm not good at math all my life. So I think this kind of diagram also put you in a box. And if you're not really careful with this kind of tool, you can fix yourself instead of grow yourself. So that's the opposite result that you want.
Yeah, it's the learned helplessness, isn't it? Kane always uses the elephant at the circus story, but we get that. People are told at a young age, you can't do whatever. I learned at a young age that I can't do maths, exactly like you just said. And yet I'm a bit of a whiz at mental arithmetic. If I'd have ever been told, this is something that you could get better at if you practiced. We've got an entire nation in the UK. The English just don't learn languages. We don't need to. Everybody speaks English. Might be true, and globally, I think it's probably even emerging as more true, but it's created an entire nation of people that hardly ever bother. Thank you, Duolingo, big plug for you, to learn a language. Goddamn bird knocking on my door every day.
This go back also a little bit with balance, right? Because that's learning a new language is going out of your comfort zone to get better outcome of your life when you use that language. But you have to put yourself in discomfort to get it. And it's also like you have to learn it before. You cannot get it on the way. It's not like cooking. You're learning a new recipe, you already know how to cook, get it. But with language, it's a bit more tricky. It's like with seasons and equinox. You have to prepare in fall to be able like to do it on the ground in winter. So you're ready in spring and you can harvest in summer.
And I just want to say to all of the vexed English out there that I actually think there's a real point in learning a foreign language. We've got two non-native English speakers in the call today, and your emotional IQ raises by exposure to languages, different culture, different ways of thinking and seeing things. So it's actually kind of a sad indictment on a nation that they don't want to expose themselves to other people's ways of thinking. And there's a balance issue there for me, because there's people that we all know, friends that we know, who speak 4 or 5 different languages, and as a result of that have been exposed to all types of different literature, movies, art as a result. And to just sit and think, I'm only going to absorb the English language parts of the world, that's a definite deficit for me on my balance wheel pendulum thingy.
I think there is a piece of the way humanity is as a species. We don't like to explore too much and to seek for differences. And we're kind of forged like that with politics and religion and all that. I don't know any religion that's push you to learn about other religion. Stay there. Don't get other. So the rest is bad. Right? We are the good ones. So we formatted like that in our society to don't like others and differences.
I think what Julien said about learning a language can put you out of balance. And I'm just being snarky here, but Alex said that bird doesn't shut up unless you give it attention, right? So sometimes you will forego going to bed and staying in balance so that you can meet your Duolingo requirements. So you have to go a little out of balance to continue learning the language. So it's just, this is the game. We want to stay here.
That's also inspired me a little bit about addiction, as an example. If you want to quit smoking, for example, there are people that say, no, I have the freedom to be a smoker. I do what I want. I'm free. And I want to keep my free will. And you're not going to push pressure on me. I do what I want. But other people stop smoking and say, I'm free and I'm free to take care of myself, but in a better way. So sometimes where people see frustration, other people see fulfillment. So it's also a question of perspective. The same way in nature, now there is everything that get unfrost outside. You get dead animals that get unfrost from the snow. There's dead plants, all the greens, all the grass that have been frost. All of this, we can say, oh, it's dead. But that's food for fungus, that's food for insects. And so one thing is death in one side, it's like, woohoo, let's bring the buffet for the others. So where is the balance here also? It's all fit together, but
that's actually beautiful, because that's really it, because maybe we cannot be completely in balance except of the 6 days of the equinoxes, because nature in itself, the law of nature in itself, that everything is in a cycle. Like you said, something dies, but it becomes food of something else to be able to live. right? So it's a cycle all the time. And I think this is my closing thoughts for this conversation is that we actually always in movement, we always progress, and it's always in a cycle, like nature. And as Erika beautifully say, what would happen if we would suddenly stay in complete balance for 10 years? That means we just stay, stuck. Even thinking about it, I feel depressed because it sounds extremely boring. So let's embrace actually the cycles and life and progress. And I think balance for me comes down to being balanced in myself to know how to deal with things. That's the only balance I can think of, that I'm not emotionally unregulated where I go from here to there and up and down and all over the place, that I'm actually able to balance myself because I can self-regulate. That's the only balance for me, which is important. What are your closing thoughts?
Mine follows something like that, where I'm striving for the 6 days already. So now we have that we can feel comfort in that it's only 6 days that we need to try to find perfect balance. But I think for me, the main takeaway is remaining balanced in my view of what balanced is, really. And keep being happy with this, because like you said, Gabby, this becomes really, there's no growth there. And it may appear to be like that's balance, but if you look deeper, it just is nothing. It's quiet, no growth, possible rigidity that you're staying still in this spot. So for me, the alternative of handling new ways is more exciting. So it's all about remaining balanced in my view of what I think unbalanced is.
My closing thought is that it's hubris to think that we can impose our will on anything. We know that change is the only constant, and I'm not any kind of cosmologist, but we're only talking about our equinox, but I'm sure there are things on a galactic level that are constantly in movement and probably only coming to some kind of balance, I don't know, every gazillion years. It's just this human ego to think that actually we can put a stamp of authority on nature. We come to Canute trying to stop the tide from turning.
Any closing thoughts?
I was thinking about it, but nothing comes. So we say, oh, maybe homeostasis, just thinking about homeostasis. But because we all say the outside is unbalanced, is not going to be balanced. The only thing we have to maintain equilibrium is inside of ourselves. And that's what I used to call homeostasis. So you can check that it's also used in biology and the way like to stay functioning inside in a proper way.
Thank you very much, everyone, for a beautiful conversation. I hope everybody listening enjoyed it. You'll find our details in the comment section below. So any questions, any comments, please contact us, and see you in the next episode.